Well, it certainly smells like a rainbow.
And that certainly sounds like Sebastian Bach, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
And we welcome Sebastian, and we have our latest panel here to talk Dio. It's a panel, yeah. In the middle slot, representing my old TV show there. Jeff Pilson is in the house, everybody.
Jeff Pilson.
We found the one day Jeff wasn't on tour with Foreigner or somebody. He's constantly out there playing with somebody. And on the end, a guy that I've also known for a very long time, bass player and singer from King's X, who have a new record coming. Doug Pinnick, everybody.
Yeah. Doug Pinnick.
Good to see you, bud.
And don't forget KXM.
Yeah. Well, Doug's resume, we could be here all day running down all the all the bands that he's played with. But the big news is a new King's X record is finally coming, which is very exciting. But we're here to talk Dio, and starting with my friend Sebastian here. Sebastian and I had an unbelievable experience a few months ago where we went to Austin, Texas, and helped launch the Dio documentary, which, as Wendy told us earlier in the show, everyone will finally have a chance to see in September, which is really exciting. But Sebastian, your thoughts on the film, having seen it? I mean, you and I sat with each other. We were elbowing each other. We were crying. We were, oh my God, this is incredible.
My thoughts on the film is kind of my thoughts on Dio in general. I'm here as a fan of Dio. And if you could have told me when I was a little kid, when I bought Holy Diver, that on his 80th birthday, we would be celebrating Dio at the Rainbow. Like, I can't, let's hear it for Dio's 80th birthday.
There you go. And 40 years of Holy Diver. And Sebastian, as a phenomenal singer yourself, I want to know what it was like for you as an aspiring vocalist to hear Dio for the first time.
Well, I bought all the Dio solo records right when they came out, and I bought Heaven and Hell when it came out. I was only 12 or something. Mob Rules. But my first tryout for like a real hard rock band, you know, I was very, very young, and they said, well, you can't sing. And I go, well, you haven't heard me try yet. And I said, do you guys know the song Children of the Sea? And they go, you can't sing Children of the Sea by Black Sabbath. And they were right, I couldn't. But I look pretty good doing it. No, I gave it my best shot, and I actually warbled my way through the song.
Oh, I bet it's better than you're giving yourself credit for.
Yeah, I was a kid. I was a little kid. But anyways,
sing anything,
if you could sing a Ronnie James Dio song, you were getting the gig as the lead singer in the band.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a high bar right there to do that, to get that gig, for sure. Yeah. Jeff, you actually played in Dio. We talked earlier, there's a long list of people that have been a part of the Dio band. Talk about that experience and first getting to know him.
Yeah. Well, you know, playing with Dio was actually a musical highlight, and in some ways the most intense experience of my life musically. I mean, the band, but with Vinny, myself, Tracy G, Scott, and Ronnie, it was just an incredible experience. I mean, every night we went out there, we kicked ass. We listened to each other. We loved working together. We collaborated. When we wrote, we just had this magical chemistry. Everything about it was really life-changing, and it turned me around. I remember, in fact, the first time after I played with Dio, of course, Doc and got back together. And I remember the first rehearsal. I remember Don looked at me and he goes, wow, being in Dio was good for you. and you know, it was, man. Being in a band of that caliber really does something to you.
Yeah. Doug, King's X, you told me just before we came on for this segment, you toured with Dio. Talk about that.
Yeah, I just got to say, first time I heard Ronnie was Long Live Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
And when I heard that voice, I wanted that voice. He had such power and soul and I was just playing some of the music today, and I didn't realize how much soul he had just from his heart. Yeah. Anyway, we toured with them a long time ago. I can't remember when it was, but every night they'd go on stage, I would go on the side of the stage and watch the show, right behind the monitors and the PA board, the PA, the stacks, talk about. And the third night, there was a chair there, and Ronnie came in and he looked at me and said, I got the seat for you since you've been watching every night. And I says, well, thank you. And he goes, your throne, sir. Wow. And it was so cool. And every time he sang, it was like every night he was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. He didn't flaw anywhere.
He could be sick as a dog.
He pissed me off. He was so perfect.
Yes. And after every show, we got together and he'd roll a joint and put his tobacco in it and his weed in it. And I'd roll a joint with just tobacco, just weed. And we'd get stoned and talk about life. And it was just so cool. I looked up to him. Listen, that's my experience. I love that, man.
I got a little story kind of like that.
Yeah, please.
Because I opened up for Dio at Sweden Rock, like about, 10 years ago or something. And I'm one of those singers like, Ronnie James Dio has a saying, if you got to warm up your voice, you shouldn't be a singer. And I'm like, bah, thanks a lot. Because my voice gets better if I warm up. So, I never drink before I go on stage. I don't smoke weed before I go on stage. I know you don't believe me, but I don't. I never have. I go up there completely straight. So
you are a pro, Sebastian.
Well, 99% of the time. So after my show, I'm drinking some wine. I'm smoking some bud. After the gig at Sweden Rock, and there's a knock at the door. And I don't know if it was Wendy or one of her minions in the Dio organization. They said, Ronnie James Dio wants to speak to you. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I'm like, holy moly. So I go, and Dio's headlining Sweden Rock. And I walk in, and he goes, Sebastian, have a seat right here. And he's doing all the stuff that I'm doing after the show, before the show. And I'm having wine, and he's like, would you like some wine? And it's not cheap, $2 Chuck. It's like Rockstar wine. And I'm going, when are you going on? He's like, I don't know, 45 minutes or something. I'm like, I would never do that, but it was so cool as to far as being like, he was so perfect. He didn't have to warm up. Yeah. He didn't think about it. He just walked out there and was Dio. And to this day, his music has lasted the test of time to the point where Stranger Things, which is the biggest show on TV, is like Dio everywhere you look. So it lives on and on and on.
It is amazing because I've been talking to people this whole show that have had these experiences with Ronnie. And of course, the reason I'm here doing this is because I had so many experiences with him as well. And even though I'm not a musician, I will never forget. It was Madison Square Garden, the theater at Madison Square Garden. It was recent, when he was doing Heaven and Hell, the last band. And it's just me and him. And we're sitting in his dressing room, just like you said, having a drink, having a smoke, whatever he's doing. And his assistant comes in and says, Ronnie, 10 minutes to show. And I get up and I said, oh, let me let you go. Where are you going? I said, well, 10 minutes to show. You probably want to, get, I've seen singers sing into towels and do calisthenics and all this shit. I said, well, you probably got to get ready. And he goes, what do you mean get ready? Sit down, finish your drink. And then he goes, 10 minutes later, Ronnie, showtime. He looks at me, he goes, come on, kid, because he called everybody kid. Come on, kid. Walk to the stage. He goes, go intro us. I walk out, intro Black Sabbath, which is insane. And here comes Ronnie singing seconds later, Neon Nights, like he warmed up for 2 hours. And I was like, that must make singers want to blow their brains out to be able to do that. Doug, did you have similar? Are you a big warm up guy, or what's your regimen?
No, we don't warm up.
I should just quit.
You know what? The truth is, Ronnie actually did have a way of warming up. He was very smart. When we would rehearse, we would always rehearse 2 weeks before a tour. Yeah. And he very conscientiously did this. He would spend the first 5 days he'd start off kind of singing light. Right. He wouldn't sing the whole set, the first day. He'd sing most of it, but, he'd work in each day. By Thursday and Friday of the first week, he was into it. Friday, he went all out, like full on balls to the walls. Monday and Saturday and Sunday, he relaxed, got the rest of the voice. And then the next week, he'd sing it pretty much balls out the whole time, increasing intensity. And I've talked with him about that. That was how he warmed up, because once he did that, with that 2 weeks of real solid foundation of getting your voice warmed up and opened up, he could go out to a show and kill.
So it was like an athlete almost getting ready for a match.
Exactly like
that.
That's how
training.
That's how we do it. We just start practicing and then just build yourself up. Don't kill yourself first rehearsal.
Right.
Just kind of build up to it.
Always leave something for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you guys each have, and I asked the other people that have played with them or spent time with them, a personal memory that really stands out to you that was so important? Maybe some counsel he gave you, maybe some advice he gave you, maybe it's just seeing a show and being blown away by something. Sebastian, go ahead.
Okay, so I got to open up for him at a place called the Bronco Bowl in Dallas, Texas. It's actually co-headlining Bach and Dio, and of course, he went on last, and that was right when I got hired to be the first ever heavy metal singer on Broadway. I was Jekyll and Hyde, and I was so excited because I could have a dressing room with a bathroom. I was like, oh my God, I'm definitely doing that.
That is a big deal.
It is. So I was all excited, and I went in to tell Ronnie James Dio, I go, oh my God, I'm going to be on Broadway, man. And I was like, what? And I go, yes, I am going to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on Broadway. I go, what do you think of this, Ronnie? And he goes, Sebastian, I think this is very good for you. This is a chance for you to show other people that you are capable of more, that you have other sides to what you do, and you can go show the world all the different ways you can be on stage. And I go, right on, Ronnie. I go, Ronnie, would you ever do Broadway? He goes, no.
Are you sure it was just no and not no fucking way?
No, he goes, Sebastian, no, I would not do Broadway. This is very good for you. I go, good for me? Why wouldn't you do it? I'm very happy doing what I do, and I have no intentions of doing anything else. So go to Broadway, young man. And I was like, I walked out of that room the most confused mother trucker. But hey, he was my buddy, and I love him, and it's his birthday. Let's hear it for Dio on his birthday.
For sure. Jeff, how about you?
Okay, well, there's a lot, but the one that immediately comes to mind is, I used to watch Ronnie very carefully as we would tour, because he was the greatest band leader I've ever seen before and since. I mean, he was so great at not only running the band, but running the whole organization on tour. He was aware of everything. He knew where every lighting point was. He knew exactly about the PA. He knew about everything about the crew, everything. I mean, he was just so amazing. And, one day something went wrong during a sound check. I don't remember what, but I remember he kind of got cross with somebody. When he did, some people got a little sensitive when he did, because he could get pretty angry, but he always did it in such a way that the person would come back and work even harder. And they wouldn't take, if they got a little sensitive at first, they caught the message, because they knew he loved them. I mean, seriously, they could feel that he genuinely supported them. So anyways, after that incident, I remember Ronnie and I were on an airplane sitting next to each other. And I asked him, I said, Ronnie, how do you do such an amazing job at controlling a band like this? And he said, you know what? And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, because if you give 150% of the time, nobody will ever say anything. It'll make them work their fucking asses off. And by the way, man, you have that quality too. You can do it. And you know what? I have taken that advice so to heart. And, you know, I've been musical director for Foreigner for all these years. It has come in so handy. And I think of Ronnie. Well, I think of Ronnie every day anyways. I really do. But that comes into play all the time. And thank you, Ronnie. Great advice.
Yeah, I've said this many times. It's hard to believe that Ronnie's been gone. Is it 12?
12 years,
Wendy. Insane.
12 years, May 10th.
Hard to believe but it does never does it feel that way, because we're always doing events like this celebrating him. And the music is so timeless that it's always there and it's always around, and we don't feel like we ever lost him. Of course, we lose the personal connection, but the music truly does live forever. Doug, you got a story for us?
Got a couple.
Go ahead. We got some time.
I only got one. It was really, it meant to me a lot to me. You know, he was very encouraging. He made you feel good about yourself.
Yes, he was.
And when I was talking about sitting on the bench watching him sing, I said to him after one of these shows, I said, dude, you are so fucking good. And I went off onto everything we were saying.
You went fanboy? Did
I
you go
went fanboy? And he looked at me and he said, I have to sing that way. I'm singing in front of you. You're a great singer.
That's him, man. That's exactly what he...
My jaw went in the ground. Literally, I'm not bragging about nothing, but it was like, I'm sitting there watching him, and I grew up listening to him, you know? So that's what I want to say about him. He had a way of making you feel good about yourself. He was a lover. He was an encourager. He was empathic. He understood. He knew, you know, how to...
You know what? He knew about all of his fans, too.
Yeah.
I mean, we would sit there for hours after the show and sign autographs in front of the bus. I mean, even if it's, 20 below, he would stand there and sign every friggin' autograph.
He had a way of making all the crowd feel like one person.
Because that's him.
And
Yes.
Real.
That's exactly it. It wasn't an act.
No,
That's the whole thing.
and he was so cordial. Like, it wasn't like Vince Neil. Hey, look at all the here tonight. Like he didn't do raps like that.
You
He
can
was
spend
like-
a half hour with
He's
him.
like, thank you very much for coming. We're all gonna have a great time tonight. We're so happy to be here. This is the concert that you were dreaming of. And I would be like, I felt like I was at church or something. Like, I'm happy to be here in your presence, sir. But a little fun fact: there used to be a record store in Walnut Creek, California, and my mom, the Record Exchange, and Kirk Hammett used to work there. And my grandma lived like 2 blocks from there, and I would walk there every day in the summer. And I saw the poster for the Barn show in Antioch on a telephone pole. And I think the opening band was Rough Cut. Am I right?
Wow.
And maybe Axe or Heaven or Accept. Maybe one of those. Heaven? Yeah, Dio, Heaven, and Rough Cut. And I was only like 12 or 13. And I was like, why are they playing in a barn? Because the name of the place was like The Barn or something.
Yeah, we talked about
And
that
I
earlier.
totally remember that poster. Okay, next. No, sorry.
No, that was if you get the Holy Diver reissue, which is out now, all the tour dates are listed
Wow.
in the booklet, and that is the first date listed on there.
A little Baz Bach was staring at the poster,
That was
trying
the
to get
first
there
gig?
somehow.
First gig? Really?
Wendy had mentioned that a place called The Barn. Yeah.
So that was the first
gig.
Wow.
The first Dio gig. Yeah, absolutely. When was the first time, Doug? When was the first time you saw Ronnie live, like as a fan?
Opening for him.
Wow.
Oh, you had not gone previous.
Yeah, I just never got a chance to see him.
Jeff, what about you?
Same thing, opening for. Actually, I saw him jam at the country club one night with Rough Cut.
Wow.
Because I was in the band that opened for Rough Cut that night. But
What band was that?
it was Randy Hansen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Randy, the guy that does the Hendrix thing.
Correct.
He's
But
amazing.
we were doing our own stuff at the time. Anyway, but then I saw him when Doc and we did 6 shows with him at the end of '83. So that was probably the end of the Holy Diver tour, I'm guessing.
So Dokken opened for Dio early on.
We did. Yeah. That was actually the first. Well, no, I guess we'd done a few things before that. But yeah, that was a big thing for us. Yeah.
And do you remember how that went? Do you remember
Absolutely.
the experience?
Of course.
Did Dokken go down well? Did you guys go down well opening?
We weren't all that good back then. So we were mediocre. I think I will say, however, though, that the next year when we toured with Dio on their last in line tour and our whatever it was, Tooth and Nail tour, my God, did we improve quick because of what George and I would sit and watch them every night. I don't recall the throne, but
you didn't get a throne.
Quite rate the throne, but no, we would watch them every night. And honest to God, that was when Dokken actually started to become a decent live act.
Was that when Dokken started rocking?
Rocking. Well, we were rocking before that, but we started rocking better.
Hard. Right.
Doug, how did King's X go down opening for Dio?
They hated us.
Stop.
Are you fucking kidding?
Did you? Was it tough?
It's always tough opening for anybody because we don't fit in anywhere.
Right.
We're just used to it.
Actually,
right?
We did a bunch of shows together, and you guys went down great with us. Because you had the harmonies and all that stuff. That was in the
which band, Jeff?
That was Dokken. I was in
bands.
Dokken.
Really?
And it was in the 90s. Yeah, I remember doing some shows. I remember in particular Florida for some reason.
Oh wow. Oh yeah.
But you guys went down great.
It rained.
Panama City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Baz, when was the very first time you saw Dio as a fan? What band?
I saw the huge Sacred Heart, like when he had like the dragon and the sword, and at CNE Grandstand in Toronto. And like what you're saying, the way he came out with the production and the show, that was like an over the top production. That must have cost some serious bucks. I'm talking to Wendy Dio
Wendy,
right
come
here.
up here. Wendy, come back up here.
Come on,
That show.
We have an open seat. We should get Wendy back
You
up
guys
here.
remember the show Dio did where he slayed the dragon with the laser beams and all that? Let's hear it for Wendy Dio.
Wendy, we're doing so much yapping up here, and you're a few feet away nodding, and we got to get you back on mic here.
Not on mic, please.
What do you recall about the dragon, and where is it now?
Oh, yeah.
It was auctioned off somewhere. I don't know. The dragon's head went somewhere. I don't know where.
Sebastian, how is that not in your house, in your living room?
I think it was in our wedding at the table, that dragon's head.
You know that a friend of mine ended up with the Sphinx.
Oh, the Sphinx.
He bought it from the auction, and it's in his. He's got a museum.
We had everything stored for so many years, and then suddenly I said, you know what? I think like 2 years ago, we got to get rid of this stuff. This is just like whatever. And so we did a big auction at Julian's, and we got rid of all the stuff. One of the nights, because there were 2 nights that had laser jewels in the Sacred Heart tour. One of them went to a museum in Florida, and the other one went to another museum somewhere else. I don't know where they went, but there was a big spider. That Sacred Heart tour that was
huge.
Working drawbridge, 18 breathing dragon.
Wasn't it the first show like with a real working laser thing?
Yeah,
right?
We had lasers. We had a whole truck a whole semi full of lasers.
Actually, they had lasers before Sacred Heart because they had them on the last line tour.
Yeah. But we had really a lot.
And that was almost the earliest. That was definitely the earliest heavy rock band to use lasers.
And they cost a fortune.
Because Genesis used them before that, but then because they were very lights, right?
Yeah, I remember Ed Aswax was the guy that owned them, and they would cost a fortune. He lives in Hawaii now, probably on all the money he made from us.
He's on the beach having a cocktail. Thanks, Ronnie.
He's celebrating Dio's birthday too.
Exactly. Right. Wendy, I have to, now that you're back up here, I've asked these 3 guys this story, but I mean, and this is such a massive question for you, having spent most of your life with Ronnie, both married to him and of course professionally as his manager. But is there for you a singular moment that in his whole career and your whole time with him that really stands out as something that you'll never forget, like a really special moment, whether it was personal, if you want to share it, or professionally, or both?
Okay, so Ronnie always wanted to play Madison Square Garden. It was very, very important to him because he had walked down there in Elf and other bands and always looked at it and said, one day I want my name in lights up there. Okay. So finally we got the offer, Madison Square Gardens, or what's the other one in New York?
Meadowlands.
Meadowlands. Meadowlands offered twice as much money. But Ronnie said, no, I want to play Madison Square Gardens. He played there with Sabbath before, but he wanted his own name up in lights at Madison Square Garden. So this is before the internet, before the phones or anything. So we go there and his name's in lights like that. And he said, oh, Wendy, take a photo. And I said, I forgot the camera. I did not live that one down, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that came back to haunt you. Probably 10 years later, he would bring that one back.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that in all this talk about Ronnie that we're doing, the thing that maybe gets lost for people that didn't know him personally like we all did is he could be a ball buster and he had a sense of humor. I took the brunt of it a lot of times. He'd love to wind me up. So that was a lot. People, I think fans look at Ronnie and, you know, the horns and the imagery, but the guy himself was not only a wonderful, wonderful person. I used to say all the time when people used to ask me about Ronnie, I used to say, you know what? As great of a singer as he is, he's an even better person. That's what kind of person he is.
He really was.
You guys realize that Ronnie Dio's first single came out in the year 1959. Is that crazy?
Which we saw in the documentary.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And there's footage in the movie of him singing from that single.
Yep.
And I said to Wendy, why don't you release that? And she goes, Ronnie would whip my ass if I put that out. I go,
But he can't whip my ass now.
No.
And it's coming out.
It is?
On the soundtrack.
Oh.
On the soundtrack
To the
for
doc-
the movie.
That's great.
An Angel is Missing is on the soundtrack for the Warner Brothers.
Because I could listen to Ronnie sing the phone book, you know, like I want to hear all of his recordings, like everything.
You come to the vault.
Okay.
The story that Wendy told about Madison Square Garden is where the book ends. The autobiography
That's right.
ends. Rainbow in the Dark.
Yeah.
It ends with that culmination of that
He
dream.
started the book. He got the idea for the book was there was a journalist that asked him at Madison Square Gardens, where did you start? Where did you get your beginning? And he said, oh, I was going to say the same old thing. And then I suddenly said, wait a minute, where did I start? And then that goes back and it ends because he says, I got to go now. I'm on stage.
Yeah. If you guys have not gotten the autobiography, it's incredible. So be sure to pick that up as well. As Wendy mentioned earlier in the show, the film, finally, everybody's going to be able to see it in September, in theaters initially, and then it'll roll out from there. And of course, the Holy Diver reissue, which we've been talking about here for the last 2 hours, is out now. And the remix is phenomenal. The original version, of course, is still flawless. And all the extras, packaging is just simply amazing. So check that out. It's available in stores right now. We're pretty much out of time. We got to wrap it up here. So thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you,
Jeff
Eddie.
Pilson. Thank you, Doug Pinnick. Thank you, Wendy Dio.